if I'm in Rawlings' position, I'm very interested in Kolaghan's command. Well, you roll Liliana first, so Dilks has less information. But then Shakazusa discard Dilks' last card as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of what I was saying. It's close as to whether or not Dilks is supposed to play the land because there's just so many cards Rawlings could have that make him discard both. If Dilks just thought there was no way that this was going to work out, maybe he was supposed to make land 6.
Right.
Which is a huge feel bad, but it does turn out that Dilks took a greedier line and here did get punished by losing the land.
And a lot of it may just be that he felt he was so far behind as it was with this Liliana in the battlefield and Rawlings getting on tap with it. You kind of just have to say, sure, this is greedy, but this is how I win the game.
Yeah. And even that, it's not too hard for him to recover. You see, here's Teleria West. It took, the deck's about half lands, right? So now the Titan mana is set up if a Titan's on top of the deck.
Exactly.
So on Rawlings' side, what he hopes for here now is Bloodbraid Elf. Now that he's got things under control, no land, he needs to end this game before Dilks top decks one of his 7 remaining Titans.
So there's a line here where Rawlings can actually, I believe he has another Kolaghan's command in hand.
Okay.
He can go to Dilks' draw step and discard the card that Dilks would draw and buy back the Bloodbraid Elf in his graveyard.
Right. I do like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rawlings go for it. So Dilks draws. Is he going to do that? Looks like he will. There's not much that Amulet can do about this.
No, not really. Especially out of the main deck, you might see something like Obstinate Baloth out of the sideboard, but that's not here.
Yeah, and that's just going to work. And Rawlings will actually draw another card off his lands. And here will be Bloodbraid Elf. Looks like it was out the main deck Wreck Sage. So we see Bloodbraid Elf cascades into Wrenn and 6.
So this is something that it's not that great here, but there is a Nurturing Peatland in the graveyard. So this is going to give Rawlings the ability to kind of just find more gas, which he is lacking a bit here.
Yeah, he could do worse than Wrenn and 6. As far as lands, you know, there isn't anything like a Ghost Quarter in the deck for Jund. So getting this Peatland back is the ceiling on Wrenn and 6.
Right.
Tribe Scout from Dilks into a Wrenn and 6. That's
or a Liliana, your pick.
Likely to be shot down.
The idea here is you can either have it take loyalty away or add loyalty.
Yeah.
And this is at least taking loyalty off of a Planeswalker.
Yeah, I think in this position, Rawlings probably wants to use the Wrenn and 6 every turn to buy back the Peatland, so maybe the Liliana -2 is cleanest.
Right.
He'll go the other way, and that's fine. Shoots down the Tribe Scout, swings in for 3. Do have our first result. Dilks' teammate Daryl Ayers takes game 1 in the Delver Mirror.
And this Liliana is actually getting pretty close to being able to threaten its ultimate, and that's kind of the point where even if Dilks has life to play with, the door is likely closed at that point if this Liliana just destroys 2 or 3 lands.
I agree. A Liliana ultimate here is a game ender.
Exactly.
And actually, with Wrenn and 6, Rawlings might even have a Primeval Titan covered. Normally, the way Primeval Titan gets around this situation is it gets Colony Garden and some way to make another Titan. With Wrenn and 6 on the board, Rawlings might be able to fully answer one Primeval Titan.
So let's see, you would have to do something to the effect of Primeval Titan, get Growth Chamber, Colony Garden, make a token, bounce the Colony Garden, replay Colony Garden.
Right, and then you're still losing to a removal spell.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, this is a situation where if Dilks really wanted to get out of it, he'd likely need a card like Mortuary Mire in the list.
All right, well, here it is.
Okay, we'll see if he can do it. Yeah, and here's Liliana's on ultimate. So things get pretty interesting.
This was the last possible turn that Dilks could have found this Primeval Titan and have it do anything.
Now, I want to talk about an addition to the deck, because this actually gives a line that is pretty new to Amulet. Normally you get Colony Garden here, but he now plays a copy of Field of the Dead.
Oh.
So, let's not just have one creature. How about we get a lot of creatures?
And, you know, I'm no expert, but none of those lands have the same picture, so I think they're different.
I think we're okay. So he should be able to get 3 creatures. And the idea is we want enough creatures that the Liliana -2 doesn't work.
Right.
So we see Vesuva. Vesuva Oh, let's see where he goes with it. There's a lot of different options.
Maybe Vesuva on Bojuka Bog plus Field of the Dead?
That is an option. Looks like he has gone for Field of the Dead. Now, Vesuva cannot target the Field of the Dead. They come into play at the same time. So this is going to be just 2 zombies. Vesuva, if he just wanted to bounce land with Field of the Dead, you'd get Vesuva here because then it's on the table.
Right.
And what I like here, okay, here's what he does. Vesuva copies a bounce land, bounces itself, and then he can make his land drop for the turn as a Field of the Dead.
Incredible.
That is the most number of creatures he can make. It's a really good find on Dilks' side.
Big fan of this line here. This is just 8 creatures for Dilks. Or excuse me, 8 power.
8 power, yeah. 4 zombies. This is really nice. So yeah, they shortcut there, but that was the play. Was the Vesuva copied Celestia Sanctuary, picked up itself, and then was replayed, and now it's on Field of the Dead.
So now it's on Rawlings to try and do something about this.
Okay, and we go back here now to Rawlings' side. 4 zombies. Yeah. There's nothing like Maelstrom Pulse, I believe, in the Jund list.
No.
One in the main,
okay.
But I don't think it's in his hand.
So I guess he's just going to have to settle for half of Dilks' permanents.
This is hard, right? Because if Primeval Titan is... This is kind of how the Jund matchup works. Remember I said you can't win post-Primeval Titan?
Right.
Dilks is going to pick almost certainly whichever pile the Titan's in.
Yes, because that's going to represent at least 2 lands next turn.
You need to make the Titan pile really bad for Dilks not to pick it.
Right.
And by really bad, it might just be Primeval Titan.
Yeah, there's a point where you almost have to think, all right, Primeval Titan versus the rest of your cards. So Field of the Dead and Primeval Titan can't go in the same pile, but really there are 3 permanents here that Rawlings needs to deal with. 2 Field of the Deads and the Primeval Titan, and he only gets 2 piles, which means Dilks is likely just going to pick whichever pile has multiples. That being said, the Field of the Deads turn off if there aren't enough other lands with them. It's really just an incredibly intricate situation.
Yeah, and you see Rawlings trying to divide these. This is a new look for Amulet, and we'll talk a bit about some of these list changes at the end here. But certainly that line there of getting 4 zombies with the Titan, that's new.
Look, Field of the Dead in all formats. That's all I'm saying.
So he wants to split the lands. And as it is right now, if it's half the lands in each of these piles, you just assume that Dilks is picking the pile with Titan in it.
Right.
It's not close. Even here.
Yeah, putting Field of the Dead and Titan in the same pile seems tough.
Yeah, I still think it's the Titan pile right now.
Yep, I agree.
And it's close. This is really hard because you have to know enough about Amulet. I think Rawlings is leaving a bit of value. I think he could move 1 more land down to the bottom pile, and I think it would still go away. But he has chosen his piles. 4 lands, and he's really just split it down the middle. 4 lands per pile, 4 creatures per pile. And you see Dilks immediately bins the bottom one.
You never feel good whenever you foff someone's permanents, and they just slam half in the graveyard. But wait!
Bolt takes care of the zombie, and Liliana takes care of the Titan, so we had Titan covered.
Okay, that is a swing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's great. He put Titan in a counter where he could answer it, which is the most important thing here. I'll stand by what I said where I think he could have gotten one more of Dilks' lands, but if this is what he wanted to have happen, he wanted to just make sure Dilks chose that pile.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was... I really like how Rawlings played that.
Yeah, because if that division, you know what Dilks is going to do.
Maybe
There's
that's
no way.
the thing, is he wanted to know what Dilks was going to do.
She just made one pile better intentionally.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we see the close. We see a Bloodbright Elf into a Tarmogoyf. And the question was, could he beat the Titan off the top? The answer was yes.
Yeah, and this puts Dilks down to 5. This is a tough spot. It has to be a Titan.
And it's not going to do it. So game 1 goes to Peter Rawlings.
What an
John.
upset. Game 1 winning, too.
And follows it with some disruption into Liliana. So he's going to make things difficult.
Yeah, and that was one of those spots where Rawlings didn't even have Inquisition of Kozilek on 1. He got to use a Lightning Bolt there.
I'm interested to see how Dilks sideboards. So we will look at that in a second here. I want to talk a second about the evolution in Amulet Titan that's happened this weekend.
All right.
So first of all, there's some changes in the utility lands as far as what Dilks is doing. He has 1 Field of the Dead main, a 2nd Field of the Dead in the sideboard, and 2 copies of Castle Garenbrig. So that's some new looks for the deck.
Right.
What's left? We don't have Colony Garden anymore in the list.
Sure, makes sense.
You already can make zombies.
Why would
zombies
you make an 0-1 when you can make a 2-2?
Right, exactly. Also out of the list, 2 of the Gemstone Mines. He's down to just 2. There's no splash in this list. So what that means is he has breeding pools in the spot instead.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
He has that. There are some splits with Snow-Covered Forest and Forest because he's playing Field of the Dead. On top of that, they've added 4 copies of Once Upon a Time to the list, in addition to the 4 Ancient Stirrings. So the deck's more consistent at finding Titans. It's more streamlined. It's got less dimensions. It's better at finding Titans. It's better at finding the right lands. There's no main deck Walking Ballista in the list anymore either. So it is Titans, it is Ramp, and that is what's going on.
Right. I mean, the deck's not called Amulet Ballista.
Ballista has been pretty good in the deck, but one of the things that they're talking about is these late games where you'd need a large Walking Ballista. Field of the Dead has just shores all of that up. So, normally you'd have 2 Cavern of Souls in the list. It looks like they have stuck on that right now, but even in talking with them about it, they thought that might be overkill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to imagine that Blue-White's even that bad anymore when they have to answer Titan and Field of the Dead.
Exactly. Before you'd have to wait to make some giant ballista, just no need. And it's not just no ballista in the main, it's not in the sideboard either.
Yeah, it's just something that they've decided they don't need anymore.
So that said, looking at the sideboard, things still should improve for Dilks.
Right. So the thing that we see over on Dilk's side that we really like are a lot of the bigger green creatures, these grindy cards like Hornet Queen. We were talking about how we wanted to see Dilks just top deck a Primeval Titan there. This is just more good top decks. You're kind of our resident Amulet Titan expert. Sure. Is there anything else that Dilks really cares about here?
I mean, you basically just want to make it so that no matter what they thought sees your hand is still good. So Dilks usually can take out amulets here. If not amulets, it's going to be some other card that just doesn't, maybe some lands that don't carry weight. Anything with impact. So Obstinate Baloth, both those will come in. Field of the Dead number 2 will come in. Hornet Queen will come in. Tireless Tracker will come in. He might even put in Ramonad Excavator.
Sure. What's the benefit to something like Excavator?
Well, it is still about getting to 6 mana, and John will be going to 4 Fulminator Mage. It's what the deck does. The thing that beats you here is when they start turn 3 Fulminator, hit your land, turn 4 Kolaghan's Command, discard a card, buy back Fulminator. You can lose those games.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the spot where ultimately Amulet Titan is a synergy deck. It's one that's not the easiest to interact with, but it does need a raw mass of cards in order to do anything.
Fulminator's really good against you. So, and all these 1-for-1s and 2-for-1s in Kolaghan's Command are good. So you just basically want to be able to not run out of resources, which bounce lands inherently help with. It's why it's a good matchup.
Right. Those are secretly a 2-for-1, even if it's only a secret piece or a single piece of cardboard.
Right. Your opponent can thought seize you 3 times, and you still have, I'll put quotes on it, 6 lands in your hand.
Yes.
So we'll see if Dilks can execute on game 2. For those of you just joining us this weekend, if you have missed some of the earlier action, you can catch up on the SCG Tour on our YouTube page. You get full recaps of our tournaments. And on top of that, we have content from Versus Live and Commander Versus, as well as our flashback series. You can subscribe and find all of this over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. It's often the case. You see well players shuffling here. Standard still in game one.
You know, the way I see it, they've probably got about another 32 minutes left in that first game.
Do you think we're going to see in Standard? And this is first of all, you're right. But I know when we've seen decks like this, where you just can't play 3 games in a time limit, it actually starts to change how the decks work, and that people have to build them to win game 1.
Yeah, so one of the things that we saw Rosum do, well, I saw Rosum do on a backup match before, is that he actually kind of swung a game almost immediately on the back of Kinrith, Return King, by giving a bunch of zombies haste. Had a million mana, played a sweeper, a few growth spirals, made a bunch of zombies in a single turn, got all the blockers out of the way, and then spent 6 to give everything haste and trample, and just attacked for 25.
Yeah, and we see that in the lists. Rosum has a Kenrith main deck and a Fae of Wishes main deck to let him use his sideboard, whereas his opponent, Benn's, has neither.
Right, this is a spot where it looks like Benn's is trying to just be a little bit more streamlined, but that could end up punishing him here.
So game number 2, and now Peter's not just going to have to play against 1 Amulet Pilot, he's going to have to play against 2. Daryl Ayers finishes his match 2-0, winning the Delver Mirror, and you got to think he's going to go be in Dilks' ear for the next game.
Right. Historically, that was always one of the scariest things about playing against Team Amulet, is all of them are on Amulet, and all of them know Amulet. So they are going to make the best play against you every time.
Thoughtseize from Rawlings. Interestingly, Dilks has chose to leave in Amulet of Vigor in this matchup.
Wow, this hand could be anything.
Yeah, Ancient Stirring, 2 Summoners packs. You know, you'll likely take the Ancient Stirrings here.
Yeah, that's the thing that Dilks can actually do next turn, but it looks like Rawlings has chosen to take a Summoner's Pact, trying to play a longer game here.
Yeah, I mean, if he has a way in his hand to Thoughtseize the other Summoner's Pact, this makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. You generally want to take the thing that there's only one of.
Stirrings then from Dilks. Looks like he picked up a second Amulet, which means if he finds a bounce land here, yeah, it's going to be... There we go. Okay, he's going to threaten a turn 3 Titan.
Yeah, this is a really going to be explosive from Dilks.
Land Amulet, and you look at your opponent, and he knows. You better have a Thoughtseize.
All right, show it to him, Rawlings.
There's an Assassin's Trophy. That actually works.
That's actually really good against School Turf.
Right. So when it enters the battlefield, with those Amulet triggers on the stack, you can Assassin's Trophy it. And he's going to have to make that line if he wants to stay in the game.
Oh, yeah, that is his only option. And all of it's public information. Rawlings knows all of the cards in Dilks' hand.
Yeah, the hard part is that Dilks can leverage this. So you see there's Tarmogoyf in Rawlings' hand. Can't cast it. Has to leave up Assassin's Trophy. But when he does, Dilks isn't going to play... We'll see if Dilks even plays the Gruul Turf into it.
Right.
He could just continue to develop with other lands.
He's got to go for it, right?
Probably, because you know that Fulminator Mage is around, and also he just drew another bounce land, so going for it is free.
Yeah, why not?
If he hadn't drawn the Growth Chamber that turn, I think it's closer.
How funny is it that Assassin's Trophy giving the land untapped is bad for Dilks?
It'd be more mana if it entered tapped. There is Assassin's Trophy. No untapping yet. The thing that Rawlings has to hope for is that he finds a Thoughtseize this next turn.
Right.
If he can take the Titan, maybe everything's okay. So, just out there, the Forest enters the battlefield, but Gruul Turf is dead, but you still have to pick up a land, which is what he'll do.
Low price for a Time Walk.
Can't talk about a low price, though. Let's talk about a low price for a Primeval Titan, because that's about to happen. Another Simic Growth Chamber. Untap twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. A bounce on the stack. We're going to see a Summoner's Pact.
Waiting to see if there's anything that can be done here.
Out of Jund, not usually.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Surgical Extraction out of the board here could hit the Summoner's Pact.
Oh, that's
if he
true.
had it. That would be what they'd be worried about. I mean, the issue with that play is that in response, Dilks just gets the Titan.
That's true.
So if you wanted to make that play, he would have had to do it on his main phase. So there's really not much to happen here. Primeval Titan now is the play. It's going to get Slayer's Stronghold, Boros Garrison, become a 10-6. Little interesting to see what the last 2 lands he gets are. That's not rolled up, but it's going to be a good situation.
Yeah, it's a spot where it's hard to say because... Actually, no, this is just lethal with the Slayer Stronghold, right? Or not the Slayer Stronghold, the Sunhome.
Right, it is lethal with the Sunhome.
Because Rawlings is at 15.
Yeah, this is a 20-point swing if you choose to go for it. If he's worried about some form of interaction, so I believe a Dismember might be able to... A Dismember plus a block might make this not work. There are things Dilks can do to shore this up. Just get a Teleria West, set up another Titan, but... They all probably lead to a win, and it looks like he is going to go to the double strike.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Dismember is something that's even on his radar at this point, out of something like Jund, where they already have Push and Bolt.
I think it's actually still enough damage because he takes so much damage to cast it.
Right, he would
it still dies.
Go to 10.
Yeah,
and then the Primeval Titan would be attacking for 10.
Yeah, so the Tarmogoyf would chump, he'd go to 4.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
It's ugly.
And that will send us to a third game. Kind of what I said before, the Jund matchup isn't about how to win after Titan happens. It's about winning before Titan happens.
Exactly, and that was a spot where Dilks just had redundancy. He had 2 Summoner's Packs, 2 Amulets, 2 Bounce Lands, and Jund wasn't able to pick any of it apart and got punished accordingly.
So I'm looking at a play, draw, re-sideboard here as they go toward game number 3.
This is going to be a spot where Fulminator gets much better on the play.
Yeah, I'm actually interested about what they do with Amulet of Vigors. Because Fulminator is now live post-board, Amulet of Vigor gets a lot worse.
Sure.
Specifically that game, Fulminator Mage never mattered. But it would have But, the number of situations where it matters when your opponent's on the play, a lot higher.
Right. It's just... Generally, you're looking to make a turn 3 Titan most of the time, but if they have a Fulminator Mage on 3, their turn 3 comes first, which means that your turn 3 is kind of going to get undone if they're doing an interactive turn 3.
And it's not just Fulminator Mage, it's also Kolaghan's Command. That takes care of an Amulet of Vigor, can take care of an Azusa also.
Oof. Standard table, 28 minutes into game 1.
All right. I'm wondering if that a bit of extra late game that Rosum has in Fae of Wishes and in Kenrith, this is the kind of part where it could come into play.
Right, so that's the position where it's likely going to win him the game, but it does not make it happen fast.
Right.
That's the problem, is those lines, you make them when you have actual 20 lands on the battlefield.
We have game 3. Liliana in the opener here for Rawlings. Good card in the matchup, but it's going to need some help.
Right. You really need to have game 1, you remember, was defined by that turn 1 interaction into turn 2 interaction into Liliana, not just Liliana.
So we have Lightning Bolt, Maelstrom Pulse, Liliana, 4 lands. This is close. If Dilks has a Tribe Scout hand, this works. But your worry is that if you play this hand and Dilks goes turn 1 Amulet,
go.
You're probably going to lose.
You actually lose the game. I think you probably have to mulligan the hand, right? You have good draws with things like Fulminator Mage, Kolaghan's Command. You don't have to settle for something mopey on 7.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's a borderline one. It has to do with the fact that Lightning Bolt, it's not clear whether that's disruption.
Right, and there's even a point where something like Maelstrom Pulse, you don't know how good that's going to be either.
Yeah, it's not great in this matchup.
Like, there's a point where if Dilks' form of ramp is, say, an Azusa,
it's too late.
And Dilks just plays 3 lands that don't pass priority to Rawlings, he doesn't even get to bolt it before she's done her damage.
So it's a turn 4 Titan, and it didn't even take that much to set it up.
Exactly.
So a mulligan for Rawlings. This one. Bloodbraid Elf Assassin's Trophy Liliana, likely a keep.
Does it have a 1-drop? It feels like that might be the question. Dark Confidant's so good at just keeping disruption coming.
Right.
It's one of your best cards against combo decks.
At this point, if the hand has lands in it, it'd be hard for him to send it back. Now, and he won't. So, 6 cards here for game number 3. All right, there's no Thoughtseize. That's the scary part. Is that if Dilks has a good hand, it's just going to happen. We see Kolaghan's Command, Dark Confidant, Bloodbraid Elf, and lands looks like is what he kept. So that, I mean, it curves out.
Yeah.
This plays. For Dilks, no plays on the first turn.
Okay. Honestly, this is this type of spot where on one hand it's scary for Rawlings, but it affirms him not keeping the Lightning Bolt as disruption hand.
Yeah, wouldn't have played. Looks like Once Upon a Time in Dilks' hand. That's been moved over to the front.
Do you think that means that Sakura Tribe Scout isn't in his deck anymore?
It might not be. If he's keeping Amulets in, that might be a better call than keeping the Tribe Scouts in. I think because Renin 6 is now a 4 in the Jund deck, I really wouldn't be surprised if that's the card you board out instead.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
You know, traditionally you'd keep in the Scouts and the Amulets, but the Planeswalker may have switched that. Dark Confidant for Rawlings will help him undo the mulligan. Once Upon a Time here from Dilks. No mana on it. It will find Primeval Titan.
What a good card to find.
Great card. Lander creature. It's everything the deck could want. Well, most things. Artifacts, lander creature, I guess would be better.
Oh, dang. It doesn't find everything.
Yeah, Ancient Stirrings can find that one.
But it can't find the Primeval Titan.
Right. That's why you have to have 4 of both.
This deck's so inconsistent.
And just a Cessnia Sanctuary picking up a forest. This is a bit risky because
he's going to have to discard as well.
He has to discard. Also, if there's a Fulminator Mage, he's in trouble.
The game is over. Maybe not literally, but effectively.
Yeah. Lightning Bolt from Dark Confidant.
Just a classic pair.
Yeah, but the Fulminator Mage should do it. Did he find one? No.
Nope.
We'll have to settle for one of these 2 Lilianas. I think it'll be okay. I guess the worry here, so I'm trying to think why Dilks would keep this hand.
Obstinate Baloth.
Could be Obstinate Baloth, actually. It's something you should be Rawlings should be concerned about. But I think it wouldn't just be that. Azusa plus 2 lands here. So if his opening hand was Once Upon a Time Azusa Titan,
you keep that.
You probably are keeping it.
Right.
Liliana here. Is there a Baloth? Pluses it. And yes, there is.
Oh, that move. Oh. Put it by the graveyard, flip it onto the battlefield.
And the trap was set. And I love how nicely the 4/4 lines up here, too.
Oh, yeah. I have a feeling that wasn't an accident.
No. So, Planeswalker down. Radiant Fountain. Does he have the Azusa as well? He had both. It's why he kept it.
This is brutal.
Land. Extra land number 1. Does he have another?
Is that all there is?
That would be a concern.
Yeah?
I mean, Simic Growth Chamber. So that's lands 5 and 6.
Right.
Oh, they're discussing whether they should make an amulet in between the land drops.
Of course.
And what a turnaround here for Dilks. For a second there, when we were saying a Fulminator Mage is game over, there was some real concern.
Yeah, absolutely. The game would have been over. That would have effectively just been it.
You see here Dilks choosing not to play the Amulet of Vigor. No real need to. You don't want to be opened up to mass discard. Just holding it in your hand is fine.
And it looks like just another copy of Kolaghan's Command coming off the top.
I mean, now here's the problem. You know your opponent has Radiant Fountain and Primeval Titan.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to try to win a post-Titan game, which, with him at 20, this board is a lot to ask.
What does that even look like?
It probably looks like something involving surgical extraction.
Oof.
Yeah, which he doesn't have, so it's hard. Lightning Bolt on the Azusa, a swing in with the Dark Confidant, a pass.
Gotta fight the good fight.
And puts Dilks back down to 20. And now we see Amulet of Vigor, another bounce land. So he held the Amulet here. Primeval Titan. With Rawlings tapped out, he can just go for haste.
Oh yeah, this is going to be at least 8.
Yeah. Gets the 8/6 Titan, has to pick up a land. Picks up probably the Stronghold. So the attack will be for 12. That will force a block. And actually, he's just going to leave the Baloth back at home.
Right.
And that's
at that
fine.
point, it's just a chump attack with the Baloth if you don't think the opponent is going to block with the Goyf anyway.
Right. 2 more lands for Dilks. It's not a chump attack if you get Bazooka Bog.
Speak of the devil.
So that's what he's going to do. Boggs himself will shrink down the Tower Goyf, so you have a 3/4 Goyf now. And Rawlings can take the damage, go to 4. There's not really much coming back from it. And you see one of the ways that Amulet can play differently now. Dilks actually didn't tutor up another Primeval Titan. If it dies, it dies, but he has Field of the Dead.
Every land has a Grizzly Bear stapled to it, and that's just actually so much to fight through.
All right. Going to do the chump block anyway. Just wants to hold on to some life points. Tramples over. Rawlings drops to 8. Tap cards Blackcleave Cliffs.
On one hand, feels bad that it's a tap land. On the other hand, it did cost 0 life.
Right. It's his only land. 2 K commands, 2 Bloodbraid Elves.
Not the 2 pair you want to see here.
And Kolaghan's command is not going to deal 6 damage.
Ugh. At this point, Rawlings just kind of thinking, is there actually anything here?
Yes, he is teammate and kind of the smile saying like, so
Can
I'm going to lose this, right?
Can I just... All right, I'll make him do it.
He says go. Maybe he'll miss it. He's not going to miss it.
All right.
Good on Rawlings. Some solid play here. Did get the first game as well. But it looks like that is the only game he's going to get. Field of the Dead now online as well.
Is this another Primeval Titan?
No, yeah, Rawlings says,
Stop. He's already dead.
Look, we are good. So the win goes to the team of Ayers, Dilks, and Rosum. They improve to 11-3. They look like in good position to make the top 8.
All right, so we have all of Team Amulet effectively locked for top 8 at this point.
Yeah. Look, it's a team event. It's a
team event on the SCG Tour.
See, now what they decided is top 8ing every single team event is leaving value on the table.